Love's telephone. As the days go by, I learn my way around, the rhythms of Mr. Greenwood's comings and goings, how he likes his tea. It's been almost 2 weeks now. I'm settling a fat slice of pound cake on a plate just as the clock strikes in the dining room. Perfect. I carry the laden tray down the hall, careful not to slosh the tea or the pitcher of milk. The thick carpet muffles my footsteps. As I near the drawing room door, I hear a strange sound, somewhere behind the lining melody and a rusty hinge crying out for a can of oil. I stop and listen, trying to make out the words as they speed up and slow down. My sweetheart's the man on the moon. I'm going to marry him soon. 'Twould fill me with bliss just to give him one kiss, but I know a dozen would never miss. I didn't know there was a gramophone in the house. I tiptoe to the door and peer in. To my amazement, it isn't a gramophone at all. But Mr. Greenwood is singing. Yes, singing. His hands rest on the mantel, and he's gazing up at the portrait with a tenderness that tells me she was his wife. I stand there, gaping, while he crooks a foot more lines. Last night, by the stars brightly shone, he told me through love's telephone that when we were wed. I'm so astonished I forget to hold the tray straight, and the saucer slides into the teapot, chiming like a bell. Mr. Greenwood looks over with a start, his brows lowering, and he takes a step toward me like an old bull about to charge. My hands tense around the tray, but then his eyes focus on my face. Ah, Addie, he says, giving his head a shake of coming to himself again. He walks to the table and sinks into his chair. She used to sing that song. I didn't know why, but I answer, It's beautiful. He nods. A silly old song, but she loved it. His voice is wistful. It's more words than I've heard from him since I started. Looking at me and speaking, both in the same day. Is this actually Mr. Greenwood? I spread the china out on the table. As I pour his tea, I'm not thinking, and I lean forward too quickly. The book in my apron pocket bangs against the table's edge. What is that? Demands Mr. Greenwood, staring at the offending rectangle outlined so clearly against the thin white cotton. My heart still pounding. How could I have been so stupid? Why didn't I leave the book in the kitchen drawer, as I always do, or put it back on the shelf? I've just been reading it over and over. And why, oh why, did he have to start noticing me today of all days? I know what's coming. I'm so sorry, Mr. Greenwood. My voice is quivering as I set down the teapot and reach into my pocket. I draw out the cinder blue volume. Truly I am. My Shakespeare, he says, ominously quiet. It won't happen again, sir, I plead. What am I saying? Of course I won't have another chance. Not after something like this. He'll say it's theft, and there are no other places open in this town. Mum will send me off to be a live-in for sure. A scullery maid, bottom rung of the ladder. He stares at me. Go. Go and... A cough stops him. When it subsides, he draws in a deep, gasping breath. I brace myself for the shouting, the raised head to come. The blood is pounding in my ears so loudly that I miss his next words. Beg pardon? I whisper. I said go and get a chair. Bring it here. I walk slowly to the dining room and pull out a straight-backing chair, wondering how it will figure into my punishment. My steps are even slower as I walk back. Here, he rasps, at the table. I put the chair where he shows me. Whatever is coming, I will not cry. He motions me to sit down, and I do, waiting. The Tempest? He turns the book over in his hands, opening it to a random page, shutting it again. Finally he says, Why this one? I look up from the book to his face, and the gleam of interest in his eye surprises me. So I find myself saying, It's all storm and magic, and freedom at the end. Ah, yes, he says. Then to my amazement, he recites from the play. Full fathom 5 thy father lies, of his bones are coral made. Those are pearls that were his eyes. He stops there, leaning back with a sigh. But it can't be left like that. Unfinished the words unsaid, and so I whisper the next lines. Nothing of him that doth fade, but doth suffer a sea change into something rich and strange. Exactly! exclaims Mr. Greenwood, slapping the book on the table so hard the china rattles. "That's exactly it!" And that's how it started, this strange arrangement. Now I know he's batty, because no sane gentleman would act this way. He had me leave the second chair in the drawing room. Every afternoon when I bring the tea tray, it has 2 cups and saucers and 2 plates for the cake. And heaven help me, I sit down with him and we talk. That's right, a gentleman like him, sitting at the table and chatting away with a girl like me. It might as well be something out of the cinema. It's that unlikely. I could never tell Mom. She'd say I'm walking on dangerous line. That people who step above their stations get beaten back down. And hard. She'd say it wasn't my place. But it's getting difficult to tell my place with Mr. Greenwood. It's as if a switch turned inside him and he started to come alive again. Like one of his inventions after years of stillness. He sees me now when he passes me in the hall, nods, says hello. His voice still creaks like an old gramophone, but the more he uses it, the easier the words flow. He tells me about plays he saw on the London stage, and what that stage was like in Shakespeare's own day, and what England was like even earlier, in the time of castles and knights in armor. It's wonderful that he knows, and even more wonderful are the books he puts in my hand and tells me to read, and the discussions we have about them after Shakespeare and Marlowe, Sir Walter Scott and Dickens. Sometimes there's a shift in him, like the sky beginning to lighten after a thunderstorm, and I think I catch the glimmer of a smile. But sooner or later he glances up at his wife's portrait, and another bank of gray clouds moves in. He goes back where the world can't reach him, and I clear the tea things. And he never, no never, mentions his son.